Hello humans, Master Dinnerflex here, bringing you the low quality content you deserve. And today, I've got a Lair of Darkness list for Power of the Elements. Now, we got Loris announced in the set, and I was pretty excited, but I didn't think much of it until maybe like a day or two ago, where I decided if I were to just build this for Power of the Elements and not wait for like Labyrinth, Mr. Rune, and then Darkwing Blast, what would I have? And it's pretty much something like this. So, it's not 100% complete, but I will say I don't think there's a single card in the main deck I would change. Outside of maybe like one trap change for another, but really that doesn't matter too much. But the point is, I've been testing against all kinds of decks and a lot against Power of the Elements decks. And the reason I am playing this, and I've actually been enjoying it a lot, is because there's one interesting thing going wrong with Power of the Elements deck building, and that is everyone is maining as many hand traps as possible, despite the fact that they're completely ineffective against not only Sprite, but they're not that great against Tier either. Like, you can open 3 hand traps against Sprite and not achieve anything, and then they just have to hand trap you once. And I found that really, really counterintuitive for not only deck building, but even Sprite's deck building, where why would you main so many hand traps against the mirror when none of them do anything? But that just is kind of besides the point. What I really wanted to get across is this idea of, if everyone's going to be on hand traps, then the best, I guess, counter decking idea you could go for it is actually just playing a trap deck. Because plenty of trap decks are super resistant to hand traps. They don't care that they're there at all. They're only concerned with your combo pieces or back row removal. So all these hand traps are pretty null, and if half their hand's going to be hand traps, then you don't have to worry about it. Where your traps can then just be way more effective because they're not really playing extenders. So I decided to test that theory, and this is what I came along with, and it's been working pretty well at that. I will say, side deck is the thing I honestly think needs work. Because the only cards I'm actually confident in are, like, the Evenly Matched and the Shifters. Everything else is, like, kind of don't really want to play it. Or I'm like, it's good, but I'm wondering if there's better options. Like, Full Force could probably be Mischief of the Gnomes. But Full Force not only hits Sprite, but it also hits Exosister stuff. But, I don't know, it just... The side deck is where a lot of the work needs to go in, but it would be way easier once we get the Mr. Rune / Runic cards, because then, like, 3 to 6 of your slots are already decided, and they're, like, the best possible choices, so that's something to keep in mind when it comes to that. So let's get into the deck list. For the Ladies of Lament, because we don't have Darkwing Blast to change up some of the theory, we are just actually playing a pretty large Lady of Lament lineup. We got 3 Lilith, obvious, 2 Alice, very good. Also, if I'm playing Full Force on the side, so it actually matters that you have like more than one of these. Loris, excellent card. I have replays at the end of this video to show you how absolutely absurd this card really is in this deck. It is so nice. I love it. And then 1 Malice. Even though it's just like Loris takes, like, it's just a better version of Malice when you're trying to get the loop going. I actually just wanted to play another hard Lilith, so I wouldn't run out, and I had better chances of hard drawing Lilith Lair. And while Malice is substantially worse Lilith, it's still a hard Lilith in a way, so it's just kind of fine. So 7 Ladies of Lament, and then 3 honorary Ladies of Lament. I should probably cut it down to 2. But it's 3 Tour Guide. This card gets way better when we get News Reporter, but that's not going to be in POTE. It's in the set after. So right now it's just it's kind of a necessity in a way, because you could have all the card advantage you want, but you really need to find a way to start applying pressure, and Tour Guide is one of the cards that can allow you to do that, just by even being in the deck list. Not only that, it's great hand trap bait for when you have ties. Great interruption bait in general, because they'll think they're hitting this with like imperm, effect failure, some kind of negation, and then you just ties it, and they kind of realize how pointless that was. 3 Arima. Not only does it search the field spell, but its on-field effect has gotten substantially better over time. Not only can it search Alice for follow-up, but it can search Sky Prison for protection, so very solid. And then Sky Prison, you don't need to play 3. Not only is it a card that, by its very nature, does nothing for within the first 2 turns, but you can also search it, so you don't need to worry about it that much. And honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that it's just big monster, once we get the runic cards, I would have honestly considered just not playing it at all, but the biggest thing it has going for it is its big-ass stats, and I'm not even joking. The runic cards are just viciously superior to this card in almost every way, but it is what it is. And then, for spells, Pot of Extravagance, I know most people like Prosperity better in this deck, but I've explained it before that Prosperity is only good is only better than Extrav in one very specific scenario. However, it's just that specific scenario is arguably the most important. But the thing is, it's not more important than every other scenario combined. And basically, Prosperity is only good if you have Lair or Lilith and you don't have both, or you're like trying to dig to a ties. That's the only time Prosperity is better than Extrav. But if you have both Lair and Lilith, or you have neither, or you just need to see more cards, which is every other scenario, Extravagance is better. It doesn't even matter that like your extra deck gets eaten apart, not by choice. It doesn't matter. The drawing 2 cards matters way more than searching for a random one, because if you have the main pieces you need, grabbing a random trap is not good. That is not helpful, especially when you're showing your opponent the trap. That means they just play around it, and that's one of the like secret benefits of this deck is when your opponent doesn't know what back row they should be playing around, it can really ruin them. But Prosperity like really kicks that idea out the window. And this deck only has like 3 main deck floodgates. So it's not even like you can grab a trap that often. That is just, it doesn't matter if they see it or not. So that's something very important to keep in mind. And I don't feel like playing that many floodgates in this deck either anyways, because like they're mildly effective until you realize how weenie rush this deck actually is and how much of a long game this deck plans to play. It is definitely a Paleo Frog kind of deck. You can sit on a floodgate all you want, but you actually need to try to win. So the more floodgates you play, the worse your deck actually gets, and this is one of the examples of that. Ties, one of the best consistency boosters to the deck. Really big power play. Opening this can make you win without ever seeing Lair of Darkness ever. It happens plenty of times. Just with all the support this deck has been getting for a while, you do not need Lair of Darkness to win, but it is such a really, really powerful removal disruption option that you're going to play it regardless. Lair of Darkness is slowly becoming not live and die, and I think that's what this deck needed for a long time, so that's pretty nice. And then, of course, Lair of Darkness. I don't need to play Terraforming or Metaverse, because, like I was saying, the importance of Lair of Darkness has tempered a bit, and you're already playing 6 copies, and Extrav, and Sky Prison can get it regardless, so it's fine. For traps, DDG is better than D-Barrier coming up. Not only does it make Tier completely unplayable for the turn you activate this, but like no frog nonsense can happen. No Fibrax nonsense can happen. The entire Punk engine becomes completely unusable. Like, this card just invalidates every deck outside of Sisters, but Sisters is low power enough that like regular traps and regular disruptions can deal with it, so that's fine. Triple Punishment. They gave us a new target. That is very nice. It's right here. I'll actually explain this in a moment. But then, in Power of the Elements, a common came out that has been so overlooked, but is so good, it has replaced Ice Dragon's Prison entirely for its function, and replaced every other type of card I'll mention soon, but it is something from Overroot. I think Terror's from Overroot. You target one card your opponent controls and one card in the graveyard. Send that card on the field to the graveyard, and if you do, set the other card from the graveyard to your opponent's field. And it's hard once per turn. Here's a neat little secret about this card. It's absolutely insane. This is a 3 of not by mistake. It is a 3 of from minor testing to realize it's literally like just behind punishment and power level. It is so absolutely ridiculous. So let me explain why. So Ice Dragon's Prison gets all of its value from having a specific one-type deck, and then it can act as like a Deity Crow, a push, or like actual real strong removal, but it only hit monsters. Whereas this does almost all of that outside of like banishing and giving you the monster, but it can hit spells and traps, which is something this trap lineup needed ever since it came out. One of the big problems I've always had is that there was like very, very few traps that could deal with monsters or deal with back row, like Mystic Mine and whatnot, unless they really sucked. Like Ballista Squad. Dino Miscets isn't that bad, but it's not great in a deck that wants to set its hand. It just wasn't really that great. Like, none of the options were until we got this one, and holy shit. It's not just that this is good, but the more you think about it, the better it gets, because even today, like in the replays I'm going to show, I removed an opponent's card off my board and then set them an Exosister on their field, and because I did that, the Martha I know they searched couldn't activate. I've blanked Tier Limit fusions with this card. They have to stay in graveyard to do it, so you just blank it. I've stopped Golden Lords with this. They try to move it around, and I just set it, and then there's a Golden Lord they don't have on the field, and it's set so they can't have it face up for any of the Golden Lands. This can also remove a big Golden Lord because it doesn't destroy. This card is so incredibly exceptional, and it being a DD Crow and just a random card removal that doesn't destroy it is absolutely ridiculous. I think this card is thoroughly insane. I would recommend trying it for anyone playing a trap deck right now. This card is awesome. And then Triple Imperm. This card actually sucks because we're going into a hand trap format. Everyone's playing Crossout, and this is a hand trap that Crossout will hit, and I don't like that at all. Well, the only reason I'm even playing it to begin with is because it's the closest hand trap that actually synergizes with the engine, because you don't want to play really any hand traps in this deck. You want to snowball and get them out of the game. But also, probably until they limit it, we're probably going to see Telephone FTKs by random players, so might as well have it. And then 2 Compulse. This could be other different traps, but because I'm playing Sky Prison, it enables some OTKs. 2 Back to the Front, yeah, and then Trap Trick. So any 2 of trap is actually a 3 of because of Lilith. Not to mention Loris recycles banished traps for draw, so like Trap Trick lets you see 3 traps, so that's like 1 free draw from just seeing Trap Trick, so that's nice. Now, for the X deck, we got obviously for punishment, but then we got Garura, I think that's how it's pronounced. And when this card is sent to the graveyard by punishment, you draw a card. And this is where the Lair of Darkness trap lineup has become really efficient. So you've seen how many times I've tried to play Reckless Greed in this deck, and it works to varying degrees, but I've always wanted a trap that could like let you see new cards, but when you play a trap that lets you see new cards, that's the only thing it does. And it makes it very limited on when and how you can use it. So if we're in a format where you need all your traps, you can't play Reckless Greed. But by them simply making this card, Dogmatica Punishment has now also not just become double spot removal, but now spot removal and a draw to let you see your next cards. And because I'm playing Extravagance, I could use this proactively in like my draw and standby phase to get an extra card before I activate the Extravagance. Like, this is basically, with the introduction of POTE, the trap lineup got efficient because not only has Punishment now also taken the steps of Reckless Greed, but Sundered from Overroot has taken the steps of both, like, back removal traps and Ice Dragon's Prison. So, like, what would be 11 to 12 traps has just become 6. And that insane efficiency, as well as them just being very good traps, has made the trap lineup super efficient. And I love it, because you don't want to play a lot of varying okay traps in this deck. You want hard hitters, because you're not playing that many floodgates, so the normal traps you want to play need to punch really hard down. But like having like heavy storm dusters or like ballista squads, they don't do that. They're like passively playable sometimes, whereas these are just exceptional, and you always want to have them in your back row. So these are very nice, and I love the new level of efficiency to it. Omega is a punishment and slay target. Not much of that. I actually have one of every extra deck mechanic, including randomly Pendulum, in here for Slayers. So if you are wondering why it's these specific cards, it's because of that. But Zeus, DDD, you can make it with a tour guide and have a really, really big boss monster with double disruptions. Levier, because I'm on Shifter and DDG, so you can just recur some of your Ladies of Lament you want to keep around back, like Malice or Loris, that are one-ofs. Breaksword has cool utilities with Sky Prison. Then Dark, very nice. It allows you to take Templar out of the Imposter deck and just make access code for legitimately free. Beat Cop, it's the only deck in the entire game that this uses this card's actual effect. Unicorn, and then Access Code Talker. This extra deck will change around quite a bit when we get the Runic cards and we get Darkwing Blast, because then I'm adding News Reporter and then the 3 Huggins, and those cards are all very important to how that strategy will change. And then finally for the side deck, Shifter. And like I said, it's Shifter and Evenly Match are the only ones I'm 100% sold on. Everything else is like kind of up in the air, including Slayer. I actually, it seems free, but it absolutely isn't. It is very hit or miss. Not only, yeah, of course you need to draw it, but it's just very awkward. You really have to draw it, and like having your extra deck dedicated to be designed for this card and you don't see it just makes it really awkward. I don't know if people realize this is not a card you can just throw in every side deck and call it good. No, it needs a very targeted extra deck like what mine currently is. And then once I get Darkwing Blast and Factual Masters, I might not even play this because now I need dedicated slots in my extra deck. But that's it for the deck list. Hopefully you guys enjoy. I would really like you guys to test this because this has been doing very, very fine. I got some replays at the end of this video. Pretty cool deck list. I like it a lot, and I can actually show this in real life because I believe I will have access to almost all of the... I think I have access to all of these cards. I think everything in here... I guess I just don't have the POTE cards. Everything else I have, so I can actually do a real deck profile with this. But thank you all for watching. I'm going to take your soul and enjoy the replays.